Mastering our thoughts and our emotions and getting to our patterns can be a long journey. And I've also seen it happen like this. People get aha moments where all of a sudden, like a switch is flicked. And that actually happened for myself in my own work. I had my aha moment many years ago when I was coached for the first time. I think it goes back almost 18 years now. And I realized that, oh my God, if I challenge my thoughts, if I think about this differently, the whole situation changes. And it sounds so simple, but actually it's true, because our thoughts dictate how we see the world. Our thoughts dictate how we feel about a situation. And if we can help people through some of these tools to be curious about a situation, to be curious about themselves and how they relate to the situation, they'll begin to see themselves differently. You know, a metaphor I often use, I say to people who run this journey with me, you know, imagine you walk down the street and there's a hole in front of you and you fall into the hole. Ah, it hurts, you get scratches. Takes you a long time to climb out. Okay. Next day, you walk down the same street, you fall into the same hole. And it keeps happening, but you get better at climbing out. So you change your strategies and your techniques and you get better. Now, one day you walk down the street and you're like, aha, I see the hole, I see the hole. Oh, you may still fall in, but eventually you learn to walk around it. And that's this journey we're talking about. And the real breakthrough, of course, is the day when you don't have to walk down that street anymore. You choose a completely different street. So let's take the example of somebody who's overworked, let's say. So I show up for work, I feel overwhelmed, there can be different reasons for that. So there's different patterns that I see underlying this. Some people really want to be in control. So they can't delegate, they want to be in all the details, right? That's one pattern I see. Another pattern is that people really want to please. They value the relationship so much, they can't say no. They're worried about setting boundaries because I might hurt the other person, or I might ask them to do work that I'm not willing to do myself, so I might fall out with them. And then there are people who really lack confidence. They feel they're not good enough, and they're trying to overcompensate by proving themselves or by taking on more work. These are different patterns, but the result is all overwhelm and overwork. So we can help them with some strategies of climbing out of this hole quicker. We can help them with time management strategies. We can help them set boundaries. We can help them say no. But I think the day they choose a different street is the day that I choose when I feel differently about myself. I no longer need to hide behind my work. I'm okay the way I am. I'm good enough the way I am. And I work because I choose to. I work because I can make a difference. I work because I enjoy it. I don't work because I'm afraid something will happen if I don't do all this hard work. So it is a process of, as you're saying, first we got to see the pattern. First we got to understand that there is something here that isn't working for me. I see the same thing over and over again. If it's a new relationship, a new job, I see the same things. I overwork myself in this case. Then we have to be curious and understand, why do I behave the way we do? Because every situation is serving us. Even if we think it's not serving us, it's causing me stress. Yes, but of course, there's a reason why you have adopted this behavior. It gives you some validation, it gives you some esteem, whatever it is, gives you some control. And then I think we have to be really honest about what our true needs are. What is it that I truly need? What is it that I truly want? What is a better future for myself? What's a better scenario? We've got to have a compelling alternative. And then we can go back to this situation, the types of situations that tend to trick me up. What am I thinking? What am I saying to myself? And really understanding, really beginning to notice, okay, what am I saying to myself? I'm saying, oh, I'm a failure if I don't do this, or I'm going to be fired if I don't work hard. I had someone yesterday I coached. Exactly this scenario. I see it very often. And she works 12-hour days, so much now she has a back issue. She's actually signed off work. And I said to her, what's the worst that can happen? What do you say to yourself in your head? She says, oh, I'm saying that if I say no to this extra project, that I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to be fired. Right? Well, is that a realistic scenario? It could happen, but is that really likely to happen just because you say no to another assignment? So then I can ask her, is that belief true? Is it true? Well, it could happen, but it's probably not very likely that they'll fire me just because I speak up. Okay, and that's the way we begin to change a belief. It won't happen. Sometimes it happens like this in a split second. Then this person goes back to work and they're like, oh yeah. I don't want to sign off. It's 10 p.m. I'm working hard. What am I saying to myself? And slowly they begin to challenge their thoughts. And that's what it means to change a belief. I'm challenging my thoughts. It's not comfortable initially because I'm doing something differently. And a big part of me is going to say, no, you're a failure if you don't get this job done. You're gonna get a red note in the book if you don't get your project done tonight. So it's a slow process of challenging our thoughts. And as I said, understanding how they have served us in the past and how that thought is no longer serving us. And many people, Tom, before they start this journey, they're not so aware that we can change our thoughts, because most of us spend most of our time on autopilot. We do roughly the same things every day. We think roughly the same thoughts every day. Of course, that's an exaggeration, but we go on autopilot, we do this, we do that, we have our coffee, we do this, we have this meeting, we respond in this way. We don't stop and take a step back and ask ourselves, oh, what was my reason for doing this? Or what did I think in that moment when I became so defensive, for instance? I want to bring in the concept of self-compassion here, because self-compassion means that we are being less hard on ourselves and we are accepting ourselves where we are. Because if I'm too critical, then I think I should be doing better. I ought to be doing better. And it's very counterintuitive. We think that, oh, I don't want to be too self-compassionate. I don't want to be too nice to myself, because then I'm going to let myself go. Then I'm just going to accept myself. But actually the opposite is true. Think about a kid or a good friend that you have. If you show compassion towards that friend, let's say they want to lose weight, you're not going to go and say, yeah, you're too fat, I know, shame on you. I mean, no one would say that. That's probably sometimes what people say to themselves. So we would say, oh, I know, it's challenging where you are. You are where you are. Don't blame yourself. From now on, you can make different decisions. So this self-compassion is about accepting where we're at. It doesn't mean that we don't want to change. It just means that we're taking the tension out of the situation. We're taking that extra negative load out of the situation. Yeah, and I'll give you another analogy that may be helpful to the listener and those who are watching. So if we imagine there's a line, we can either be above the line or we can be below the line. If I'm above the line, I have this curious mindset. I'm open, I am curious, I could even be in flow. So I'm feeling good, I'm feeling could be energetic, but my mindset is open. I can innovate in that state and I can collaborate, and there's no noise, right? When I'm below the line, I'm somehow there are some negative emotions playing up. Could be that I'm really suspicious of somebody, or I feel anxious about something, I feel overly stressed about something. And I think the idea of doing the inner work is trying to get something from being below the line to above the line. And if I'm having a bad day because I feel below the line, I just feel rubbish today, or I had my application wasn't accepted for something, I feel angry. Okay, I'm below the line. I'm below the line. If I accept that I'm below the line, if I show self-compassion, maybe even give myself a hug, it's much more likely that that act in itself will bring me above the line. And from above the line, with an expansive mindset, I can say, okay, how am I going to address this? Because if I take action from a place of being below the line, from a place of being activated and my emotional brain, my limbic system going all over the place, I'm going to be reactive. My action is not going to be a real constructive action. It's just going to be a knee-jerk reaction. So I hope that image is, that metaphor is useful. The breath is always available to us, and that's why I've dedicated a whole chapter in the book to the breath, actually, because if we're at work, we can go to the restroom, we can just take a few minutes out. That it's been proven, this is all scientifically proven, that if we change our breath, deepen it, slow it down, and if we breathe out twice as long as we breathe in, we're actually signaling to our nervous system, all is well, there's no need to panic. And that's because when we are in a stressful state, of course, our breathing pattern is different because we're about to run from a tiger. But if we are in a state where we can breathe slowly and focus on our out breath, literally, the signals are going back up to the brain saying, there's no danger, relax. So the breath, and there are many different breath work techniques in the book, I think is such an instant go-to. Now, because it's been so many years of me working with this, I notice when I feel off balance, and I may have a day or two when I'm running around, I'm not feeling right. Yes, but I need to get a lot done. And then, okay, stop. Go out. I always go for a walk. There's some nice trees around here. But instead of going for a walk, then thinking about what I need to get done, I'm like, oh, I say hi to the trees and I say hi to the birds. And then I get into that space where I can sit down and reflect. Okay, what is important right now, or what's going to be important for the next 2 weeks, or just reflecting on how I am, or what am I missing? Could be any kind of reflection. Very important. Let's go back to this example of, let's say, people who overwork themselves for, they have some underlying patterns they need to address. I ask them, and I ask them that in the book as well, what do you need more of in your life? People always know the answer. They always know the answer. Because it's I need time, or I need space, but you're right, there is a specific exercise in the book where we go through what are your fundamental needs. And understanding our fundamental needs can help us understand why we behave the way we do. If I have a big relational need, I have a big need for connection in my life, that's often what I will prioritize. Or if I'm not prioritizing it, I'm going to feel off kilter. So once I can identify my basic needs, I can then make an assessment to see, am I living according to my fundamental needs? So, and I call them fundamental needs because they are. Some needs we all have. We all have the need to feel safe. We all have the need for a certain amount of safety and certainty in our lives. We all have this relational need. We all have a need to know that we matter, so there are some fundamental needs, but we're all different. So the hierarchy of those needs might differ a little bit from person to person. And then we also have values. So values are a little bit of a higher abstraction. So you could say, well, family is important to me. So my need is relational, but it expresses itself as a value that family is important to me, for instance. And so we can go through and identify all these needs and values that we have. I have a need for freedom. It expresses itself through my value of traveling or whatever it is. And so in this exercise, people can go through and identify that, and then they can be brutally honest and say, okay, am I living according to those needs? And I want to also take the opportunity to say that life isn't just about fulfilling our needs. Okay, it's not about throwing our toys out of the pram if we don't get a perfect life where everything plays to my need and my job is perfect and it's not about that, because that's unrealistic and we don't want to set people up for failure. I think this is about being honest with what's important to me and working towards that. Rome wasn't built in a day, so don't expect that everything will change within a month. But now you have a compass and you have a direction that you can work towards. I often liken it to a tank full of fuel. So if a person feels energetic, then the tank will be full. And if they're running on empty, then obviously this is not a good sign. The amount of boundaries I need to set will depend on, I think, how much fuel I've got in my tank. Because if I've got full fuel and I'm happy and I'm contributing and I'm giving and I'm doing voluntary activities here and I'm working overtime, but I feel really good because that is my purpose. Well, fine, good. Is there a problem? But the way that people can see that there is a problem is if they feel drained. Yeah, I feel drained. I've been running on empty for too long. I don't have enough to look after my own needs, don't have enough time or energy to look after my own needs. So one person I was coaching last week has elderly parents, and she's driving 2 hours each Sunday to look after them. And that's good, but she's doing it every single Sunday. And she says to me, I'm doing it because I have, I don't value myself. I don't feel I have enough value. So what would you be doing differently if you had more value? What would you be doing differently if you had more esteem for yourself? He said, I wouldn't go and see my parents so much. I would have different boundaries. So again, each person knows, we know intuitively when we need to set boundaries. It's not about being rigid and never going to see the parents, of course. It's about saying, how can I balance their needs with my needs? It's not about giving everything to others and there's nothing left for me. Then how can I function? How can I even be of service to others if I'm completely drained myself? You know what they always say on board a plane, put the oxygen mask on yourself before you attempt to help others. And that's what we're talking about here. So I think, Tom, is really about each individual looking at where do I need to set helpful boundaries so that I don't feel so drained in energy. And it could just be one change. It could be I leave work at 6 p.m. 3 days a week. That could be a boundary I set. I stop working on weekends. And that, believe me, for some people is a massive step and it takes them a little while to get there. I coach people who work round the clock. It's exactly the purpose of this book, because you didn't say it explicitly, but there are 24 exercises in here. And all the questions that I ask people, all these introspective questions are in here. And that's why it's got work in the title, how to do the inner work, because it's not just a book that I read through and I feel good afterwards. It's actually a book, hopefully I will feel good afterwards, but where it takes me on that journey of answering these types of questions for myself. The questions are already in the book. So I need to take the time to reflect and to ask these questions so that I gain new insights. That's the second best to working with a coach real time, I think.
This book, the exercises alone, it's so worth it. And I think, like I've been to $1,000+ workshops, really deep personal development work, like 3 days, 5 days, 7 days. And these exercises are on par, even better than those. And there's so many of them, like more than you could do in a workshop like that, right? So it's really, really powerful. And I love what you said earlier in this interview, Suzanne, and what you mentioned in the book is that we have the answers inside. Like everyone knows if you ask them what do they need more of in their life, they know, like we know, right? And I think sometimes we just need to know that we can do it, or that someone is cheering for us, or that we have support. And so I want to, appreciate you and acknowledge you for the work that you're doing, because you are giving so many people that support and encouragement that they need to have the confidence to take action on that. Because if someone's feeling stuck, there's a reason they're feeling stuck. They're not crazy. There's nothing wrong with them. Sometimes we just need some support. We need a helping hand. We need someone like you, a mentor, a coach, an author, to say, hey, what about doing things differently? What if you really were that valuable? What if you really could take that next step? And that's such an inspiring message to share. And so I really want to thank you for the work that you're doing.